Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Sweetpea. Great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, I already went into this knowing the premise of, Rhiannon, played by Ella Purnell, being someone who just hates everyone because she was it started when she was young, and basically she got bullied by Julia and made her feel invisible and so insecure and kind of destroyed her self-esteem, and basically that's carried on throughout the rest of her life. People never think about the fact is of what you do, especially at a young age of someone's formative years, how much of an impact that affects them later on, and especially when the world had kind of continues to treat her like that. I'm curious to see how the show handles it, because you could easily see the show eventually going down the path of, yes, people are shitty, but it's up to you. Like, it probably might be the more not moral lesson, but just like, it might be the perspective that gets thrown in Rhiannon's face, being like, oh, you should have, like, yes, it sucks what happens to you, but it doesn't give you the right to kind of snap by and pop off like you do. But it's still the thing of the entire episode to just build up and build up and build up. Once again, I get the frustration of like people making fun of you, making you feeling less than, making you feel invisible. It feels like the only person in your life that sees you and responds to you is your dad and Tink, your dog. And ultimately, they're both taken from you. I mean, once again, the people at work, I mean, she literally has burns on her hand from like the tea, as like Jeff, it's like, hey, he has no spatial awareness and he's not paying attention. So that's the thing of like, these people, they're dicks, they're huge assholes. Do they deserve to die for it? That's going to be the question. But it's also the thing of, talking in a fictitious sense, but also just talking in a human nature sense. It's understandable, the anger. I'm not saying it's justified to kill them. In a fictional sense, you're like, fuck them, they're assholes. But in the confines of the real world, no, I get it. People can be shitty. That doesn't justify you killing them. But still, it's just like, once again, especially for her, just one thing after another, day in, day out. And the only thing that seemed to have kept her at least some form of balance is her dad, because her dad is what kept her grounded. And that's what she also pissed about her dad. She's like, if I could kill someone, I'd kill my dad, because you died on me and left me all alone, because she doesn't have anyone. Her mom left her and her sister and her dad when she was younger and never told them where she's going. I'm curious to see if that ever comes back into the story. She has a weird relationship with her sister, Saren, because Saren is just so oblivious to her and just kind of treats her the same way other people are. Like, you're doing business with Julia, but it's like, the interesting thing is that the way Rhiannon was talking about it, it's like, what she put me through. Because we don't know how far apart they are in age. Because when you looked at them when they were younger, they looked like they're close enough to age, so they probably went to school at the same time. So she might have even gone to the same school as Rhiannon and Julia. Maybe, I don't know. But it's like, this is the person that made your life a living hell, and it's just like your sister wants to do business with her. But like I said, it doesn't seem like she has the highest opinion of Rhiannon to begin with either, and it's just so confusing. Because if you look at like the memorial service for their dad, there was this song that's getting played. She kind of smiles a little bit. She's like, oh, it's actually a really good choice. And then it's not until Rhiannon's like, oh yeah, dad would have, killed me. Like, he made such a big deal about it. And then like, it's only like her sister talking irked her nerves. It's just like, it seems like her sister's very existence bothers her. And it's like, she's so indifferent. It's like, I'm living my life. I've got my husband. I've got my child. You are just, I don't care about you. Well, we're going to sell the house. In fact, we're going to get Julia, the bully, who left you with massive psychological scars and no self-esteem. Yeah, this person's going to sell your house. So it's like, that's deeper layers of how effed up that is. This person who kind of broke your and took your self-esteem, took your worth away from you, it's now going to take away the only home you have. Because not only is it your family home, it's also your home, because you're like, where am I going to live afterwards? Like, you sell the house, and Saren doesn't care. And it's like, that's such a dick thing. And I'm like, I don't understand why she just views her sister that way. Why? Like, it feels like, because this is what I'm curious about. Like, let's take the Julia thing, for example. I wonder, are we going to find out why Julia picked Rhiannon to begin with. I think it's so interesting that at the end of the episode, she's like, I didn't think about you. It seems like, oh, you're obsessed with me. It's like your relentless bullying of her. It seemed like because she was an easy target. And sadly, because you shattered her self-esteem, she made herself an even easier target. I'm wondering, are we going to find out? Is there something that Rhiannon did? That's such a small thing that Rhiannon doesn't think it's a big deal, but it was enough for Julia to decide to target her. Or maybe it's a thing of we were kids. Like, how are you going to hold me to something I did as a kid? It's like, yeah, but that's your fault for not recognizing how shitty you were, because at no point did you ever apologize. Now that we're adults, you never go like, I'm so sorry, because you don't care. It's like, oh, your life meant nothing. I've grown off and created things for myself. But that's also where I'm wondering too, like, you know, with a bully situation, it usually stems from, hey, either one, they're getting bullied, and to make their bullying stop, they bully someone else. Funny, I would kind of use that reference because that pops up in Fallout, which Ella Purnell is in. So, just funny. But yeah, it could easily be something like that. Or it could just be like, yo, her life is shitty in general, and she wants to take it out on somebody to make herself feel better. So it might be the thing of she picked on her in particular because it's like you seemed happier than her, and she wanted to rip that happiness away. Maybe it's even simpler than that. We probably won't know until much later in the season or series before we get that answer. But I'm curious. And I wonder if there's something along those same lines for Saren and why she like treats Rhiannon the same way. I mean, once again, you're treating her the same way literally everyone except for your dad and Tink treated her. People at work, her boss, co-workers, like she was even like when she was going, she's like, oh, 10 days away from work, and she comes back, packages piled up on her desk, but she's like, oh, hi. No one welcomes her back because no one noticed that she was gone because she's so invisible. And her dad's final words to her was like, you need to stop letting people like take the piss out of you. It's like you need to like roar, you need to like stand up for yourself, make yourself known. And for her, that was like the most heartbreaking thing. She's like, I let you down at the end because her dad was going through a medical thing, and she was like, right, trying to get a nurse's attention, but this dude was like so in the nurse's face about something else that it's like they got like, and I'm sure that guilt's rolling around in her mind. It's like, if I was more assertive, if I'd gotten that nurse's attention sooner, maybe my dad would still be alive. It's like, I failed you. I should have been assertive in that moment, and I didn't. You know, there probably couldn't have been anything that could have been done, but the what ifs are just going to start like are immediately running through her mind, you know? And it's just, there's the guy she sleeps with who worked with her dad, who was avoiding her like the plague, and then he's immediately paying all this attention to Julia, even though like Julia is married, so not unless that ends up turning into an affair situation. But it's like the last thing you want is a guy that, you know, who hit it and quit it and then immediately like wants to like hang out with Julia because she is kind of a celebrity. Oh, she's coming back to town. It's kind of a big deal. So she's probably like one of the people from town who went off and kind of made something of herself, and now it's coming back for whatever reason. Kind of feel like there probably is a very specific reason you came back, but like there's like billboards put up of her, so it can't be, I don't know, we'll see, because it's the thing of like she seems like so put together, and like I think it's going to end up, I think Rhiannon's going to find out when it comes to Julia that it is a well crafted lie, and not everything is what it appears to be, that she sees herself as the ghost that everyone passes by, but everyone else is probably just as miserable, just going through their lives, but they're just good at faking it and pretending. You know, I think not only with Julia, but Saren as well. There's also the situation of her trying to get that junior reporter gig from her boss, and he's kind of like, no, you've got that la la la. I'm like, what is that? La 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 was like, what does that even mean? I thought like he was like, right, you don't have that killer instinct, but I guess it's like, oh, you're all gumshoes and rainbows, you know, like, oh, la 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 la, to like perky, like you got like a perkiness to you or whatever. I think that's what he was kind of getting at, like you're too like, yeah, you don't have that like grit to you that a reporter should have. And then immediately, not even like 2 minutes later, giving the job to AJ, who just came in there like, I mean, because that's the thing, like it's not like her boss wasn't Norman. Not at no point did he say like, sadly someone else is coming in for the job. He just came in, talked a little bit, and got the job. And obviously it's because of something about his mom, which we don't know who his mom is, but his mom must be a pretty big deal for like him to immediately get the job. And it's just kind of like, I mean, we already see that it's kind of maybe a boys' club to some extent, maybe just because of the way he was like, "Oh yeah, Jeff is good. Jeff is the best." It feels like it might be a little bit of a boys' club. I'm not gonna just completely write it off and just be like, "Oh, he's sexist." I mean, there are other women that work in a building, but who knows how many of them are reporters? It seems like Jeff is one, and obviously AJ just got this position, so once again, it might not be a sexist thing. It might just be a just I'm shitty towards you in particular because I don't see you. I always see through you. I see past you if I don't see you at all. I mean, hell, she went following AJ, and I was like, "What are you going to do?" I figured she was going to back out, but the only reason why she stopped herself at all is because she was so grabbing onto the knife so hard, she ended up, I guess the blade was out, and she cut her hand. I love how unsmooth she was when it fell on the ground. She immediately steps on it and tries to be like, "Hey, AJ, there's a form you're supposed to sign. You should give me your email and stuff like that." He's like, "Okay, cool." And he even asked, he's like, "Did I take your job?" I'm like, that's so fascinating that I was like, first and foremost, why did you even come to that conclusion? Like, did he kind of pick up on like the energy from her being like, "Yo, were you coming after me because I took your job?" She's like, "Well, it's not my job. It's your job." And he's like, "Okay," because he doesn't know the context. But I'm wondering why would he even assume that? Because part of me wonders, like, why is he even getting his job in particular? Is it a job he wants to come get? I mean, like, he specifically came in here for that, but I'm wondering, like, was there a deeper reason? Are we going to find, what else is there to AJ's character? Oh yeah, I completely forgot at the funeral or whatever that it's like, oh, like there's some glasses that need to be picked up, and she had to be like, "Hey, Aunt, was it Barbara or something like that?" It's like, oh, so it's like, so you don't work here? It's like, no, I'm your niece, and it's like, oh, okay, well, and then just walks away and it's like, yeah, she doesn't work here. Not even explaining like, oh yeah, that's my niece. You're not like, oh my god, hey, how are you and stuff like that. Check it. It's like no one cares. You're all alone, just like you were when you were younger. It's just like life is repeating itself. I mean, granted, we're seeing these snapshots of her life, but you can only assume, and I think the presumption is meant to be every day of her life is like this. And that when she's at, like, especially like we see these two crisis moments in her life, everything she went through as a kid, the snapshots of those, but also this pivotal moment where like my dad is dead, and with him going, I'm literally alone in the world because there's no one I have except for Tink, which once again, I was scared with that scene where it's like she had Tink on the leash and she was walking by the highway. I'm like, please don't, please don't. I was like, please don't, please don't, please don't. And I was scared that like something was going to come on, but she might let go of the leash, which she does because she stresses out seeing the billboard for Julia and starts pulling her hair, and she goes to check it out. I'm like, you do not have Tink's leash in your hand, and Tink gets hit by a car. I was like, no! Oh God, I mean, obviously, it's like that hits even harder because have family pets, so the thought and have two small dogs, so it's like it just hits too close to home. I mean, it would suck regardless, even if I didn't have pets, family pets currently, but it's still just a thing of, I've grown up having family pets too. I've always been around dogs and cats, but a lot more dogs than cats. So it's just, I don't know. It just sucks. Once again, the last person in this world that loves you unconditionally is gone. Not even talking about your dad, talking about Tink, and it's just like, that sucks. That sucks majorly. And now she's digging a grave in the yard for him. Drunk dialing her sister, leaving a message of being like, don't sell the house, tell Julia to fuck off, but then decides to go to the little gathering. And Julia tries to pretend like she doesn't remember who she is, but then she immediately was like, you were nothing then, and you're kind of nothing or nobody. I don't notice you now. It's like, you definitely remember her. So did you only remember her in this moment, or have you been gaslighting her this entire time, trying to pretend like everything's okay, but you know what you did? It's not a thing of, oh, I was so young, I forgot what I did. It's like, you saying all that makes it seem like, no, you distinctly remember, and you're trying to like play it up because you get some joy from how miserable she is. Maybe you weren't trying to antagonize her. Maybe you're like, cool, whatever. Like, oh, we were so young. Can't believe how much we've changed, right? But it's like, once again, we will have to wait to see like if she is really just so evil that she's like, oh, I know what was happening from the beginning. I've been gaslighting you since the beginning. Or I was like, I remember, I just thought like we moved past that because it's whatever. It's like, because even when she was pulling out her hair afterwards, she was like, oh, you're still doing that? It's like, you bitch. oh my god, you suck so much, because knowing like you humiliated her in front of everybody, pulling, because she pulled her hair out so much she had to put on a wig. She had to go full Ashley from The Boys. So it's like that. So once again, especially at such a young age, that's some shit like would be scarring for, like, you know, depending on the circumstances and situations, like that could just be psychologically trauma. I mean, it's so psychologically traumatizing, you know, I think for any kid, but especially a little girl. Like, you know, it's just, she was already being made to feel othered, and now you made her even more of a pariah, and you and your little clique laughing and stuff like that. Once again, it's easier to make someone else the butt of the joke, so you don't have to be the butt of the jokes. And like I said, I feel like that could be an element to Julia's name, but we'll have to wait to see. Then she also had the nerve to tell her husband, like, oh my god, yeah, she's always been like that. Yeah, she's making up it. Because it's like, yeah, because your husband doesn't know you for the mean girl that you are. I mean, if that's not enough for to finally set someone off, some drunk dude pissing on a bridge, like nearby, pissing on you and be like, oh, sorry about that. Come on, dude. The world is literally shit on you, and now some drunk guy is literally pissing on you. Once again, in the context of the show, I'm not saying in the grand scheme of things it's okay to do all this, but in the context of this story, this fictional story where we're talking about this fictional character, I'm saying outside in the real world you can be angry, but I do not condone violence. I feel like I have to throw that stipulation in there because, yo, I'm with Rhiannon. I'm like, yo, whatever she does this series, it's going to be fucked up, but I'm going to back you. Because as you know, I ride or die with most villains. I'm like, oh, you're about to do some terrible shit? I'm kind of with you. There's only certain villain, like when your protagonist does some villainous shit, then you're kind of, then I'm like, those are typically the characters I'm like, oh, I know you're bad, but I'll ride with you. There's other villains who do villainous shit and who are just like, oh, you're not the main character of the show, so I'm like, fuck you. Rhiannon's our main protagonist, and she's been shit on all of her life and treated like crap and treated like a ghost, and I'm like, nah, fuck anyone, fuck everybody. Like they could catch this blade, which is obviously very poetic, I guess, in the sense that the knife she used to kill the guy this episode, and I think the knife she's going to be using going forward is the knife she got from her dad. So it feels interesting, because especially because she was like, oh, she felt alone. It's like there could be some deeper layer of like, oh, like it's almost like her dad giving her strength, because her dad's the one that told her to kind of go all roar, and now she's doing it and using the knife he gave her. So he probably be disappointed in the choice she's making, but he also wanted her to be tougher and more assertive and not letting one push her around, but he didn't expect her to go this far. So, but it's almost like her dad's, I'm sure she probably might view it as like, oh, dad's guiding hand is here, considering it's his knife. So not only did she slice dude's stomach a little bit, he was like, oh, you're done for. She stabs him in the neck, got on top of him, and stab, and pushed her body into the water. Cool, and left. And I do like one of the, like, as she's walking down the street, there's a group of girls. I think it's kind of interesting if you look at it symbolically that they had to split to go around her, which once again, everyone just bumps into her because they ignore her. And in that moment, it's almost like, and you see, it almost seems like there's a smirk across her face because it's like, yeah, you moved because of me. I'm always having to move from other people bump into me. I have to apologize. I mean, the argument could also be like, well, she is, you know, this is, I was about to say it's a British show, so it's like her mentality is kind of like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about like just Europe in general, but like Brits in general, like the, like, you know, you have your stereotypes about New Yorkers not caring and just like, yo, what the like, well, like you cussed you out or stuff like that. You know, my stereotype is like, I might be conflating this with like the stereotype about Canadians being super like friendly and apologetic, but I feel like I hear that about Brits still, like, oh, like I'm someone else is at fault, but you immediately say sorry. Once again, I could be conflating that with the Canadian stereotype, which is a very strong possibility. But yeah, like I felt like that's what that moment was kind of saying, getting back to it, just like, oh, they kind of move around me instead of me having to move around them like usual. And it's just kind of like, yeah, she lets out that big roar at the end. So very, very excited to see where all this goes. I kind of am bummed because I'm like, oh, I gotta wait week to week because I'm like, I want her to get her get back, because the entire episode was build up, crap after crap after crap. Like, dedicate. I mean, that's the point though. You want to feel that frustration for her so that when she finally pops, you're like, I get it, you know. So yeah, it just kind of like I want her to get back against everybody, and we're gonna have to wait week to week. The show is only 6 episodes from what I can see. I don't know if this is like a limited series or not. I mean, it's a British show. Like sometimes, like British shows can just be 1 or 2 seasons. I'd also feel like it probably is just a one-off because I was like, well, Ella. I mean, it depends on when she filmed this, but I was about to say like, well, I'd assume like currently Fallout will take priority in just like the lineup of like her work. So I don't know if like those scripts are already written, like where it is production wise. So I don't know if she hasn't like. Once again, this might have been in a can for a little while. Like she was probably able to squeeze this in like sometime after finishing filming Fallout and while it was in post production. I don't know. It's a small enough production and everything, you know. So, but it is based off a novel. I've not read the novel, as you know, I'm not the biggest reader, but yeah, apparently it's based off a novel, so there is a limited amount of stories. So I'm curious if like all 6 episodes covers the entire novel, or could there potentially be more in the future? We'll have to wait and see. Maybe it's known out there whether this is like a limited or mini series. I haven't looked into it. I'm just basing it on like, oh, I've come across like on like Wikipedia, it tells you how many episodes it is, but I haven't really read anything too deep because I don't want to, you know, unnecessary information sometimes. But either way, like I said, I'm just excited to see where things go and see if not only does Rihanna get back and just once again fleshing out like all these other people around her and why they're doing the way they are, treating her the way they do, but also will she get away with all like this crap she's doing, or will she get caught and locked up for it? So we'll have to wait to see. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.